Hi guys, my name is James Sutton. I'm a sculptor. I have been for the last 15 years. I've been asked to give you a little bit of information about what I do, the tools and techniques I use. I'm afraid I'm recording on a phone, so the video might be a bit dodgy, so apologies. So I started out, art has always been my thing, even when I was at school, at sort of your age. Most of the GCSEs I sort of chose were art-based or design-based. I was never particularly academic, so making things and painting or drawing was kind of always my thing. So after school, I went on to university, where I studied fine art and crafts, and I kind of got to do lots of different materials, experiments, and lots of different things. After university, I decided I wanted to go into sculpture, ended up setting my own sort of studio up, working part-time to start with, and then doing graphic design on the side to kind of pay my bills. Over a couple of years I was able to go full-time doing my sculpting. So used to make all sorts of things. So I started off mainly doing stone carving. These days I do a lot of metal work and some casting as well. So I'll talk a bit about my process. The main thing I do, let's see if I turn you around. The first thing I like to start to do is just doing lots of sketches, lots of drawings. So research, lots of pictures, and just get my ideas down on paper. I then normally like to do some models as well, so you can see the whole workshop's just full of different models and bits. Also lots of drawings on the walls. Excuse the mess. So this is a clay model I'm just working on at the moment, just as a basis for a larger commission that I'll be creating metal. I also work a lot in computers. So I like to use design software just to get my ideas across to the client. So for example, similar stuff you probably do to school, just getting my ideas and putting them in place of where they might go so the client has a better idea what they're going to look like. But I'll give you a tour anyway. This is my office that you've been in. It's where, in theory, the tidy stuff happens. And this is the main workshop. So come around here. So I've got quite a nice large space. Mostly what I do in here is metal work using stainless steel. These are a couple of bits on the bench that I'm working on at the moment. So this is for a client who wants a couple of pygmy goats. So I've got my models down here, rough sort of idea what I'm going to be creating. And then I'm starting to build up the frameworks here. I'll then be adding all the metal on top of this until I get a more sort of solid shape. But doing it this way just sort of gets the proportions right. I can work out the poses. So in order to join the metal, I use a welder. So I work a lot in MIG welding. So essentially, you're just creating a circuit. So you clamp it onto the bench, and then I won't do it now, but when I press this trigger, a piece of wire comes out, and that melts your two pieces of metal together. It's very bright, can really hurt your eyes. You have to wear a welding hood, you've got to wear leather aprons, gloves, all those sorts of things. We've got all sorts of other tools as well. We've got some halves here for heating up metal, we've got extraction for the fumes. We've got, this is a plasma cutter, which allows you to cut all sorts of intricate shapes out of metal. It's almost just like drawing with a pen when you're using it. Obviously just a really hot flame, cuts through the metal, allows you to make all sorts of interesting shapes. When I'm doing big batches of things, I get objects laser cut, so it's just a lot quicker. So these are some fish, so I get them laser cut in that style. I then weld on the patterns. They end up like these up here, go in people's gardens. Well, it's got some other bits, small bits that I make. things. That's the outside of the studio. I'm lucky enough to be based on a farm, so I can make lots of noise without any issues for anyone else. And there's a few other businesses around here which are really helpful for lifts. One of the other tools that I use all the time are angle grinders. So you get different attachments to them, so you've lots of cutting discs, lots of grinding pads as well, from coarse to fine, and then some polishing ones as well. We use that in a small format as well. So little die grinders, little blades in to get into small detail. And then lots of hammers, lots of beating out, just a simple bit of wood. I don't know if you can see that, but I've got some dips in here. Beating with hammer allows me to get curves and shapes. Got simple tools like this. You just get your piece of metal in there and you can use it to bend and twist. And then just lots of different measuring devices. So you can work out scales, you can look at your model, work out measurements and transfer them across to your model. One of my favourite commissions was for a business client on the Isle of Man. They always have sculptures based on Bible verses, and one I created them was entitled Ask, and this was the initial just rough sketch. I'd then work in plasticine, sort of get a rough idea of what I wanted to create. It's then a case of drawing it out life size. Here I'm looking at they're called dynamic curves that sort of run through the body. I then begin making a metal frame, a sort of armature to go underneath the sculpture. Slowly building it up with more and more metal. See if we can skip ahead a bit here. Once I've got the basic form, I then begin adding sheet of metal. So this is Corten steel, which is a type of steel that is allowed to rust and creates its own protective coating over the top. Some of you might have heard of a sculpture called the... You can now see the shape beginning to come out. Get an idea what the finished piece is going to look like. So then begin mapping out the face. And then this is the finished piece. So this piece actually ends up on a hill in the Isle of Man. So it's quite a beautiful location on top of a big boulder. This is a piece I worked on recently, which isn't too far from here, just up in Curtin and Lindsey. So you can see my clay model next to it, and then I'm starting to build up the face in metal. Got a willing volunteer for measurements. And again, you can see the piece slowly being built up. Face getting a bit of character. Here's the hands beginning to be formed. And then if we scroll down here, we've got the finished piece. Here's a stone piece I did a few years ago for a Tesco store in Lincoln. So again, start with a plasticine model. And a big lump of stone. So you can just about see on there the drawing of the swan. Gives me a rough idea of where to start. I then begin by just getting rid of the excess stone that I don't want, getting down closer to the shape that I do want. See my little model next to me. See it's starting to take shape. Like I say, you may have seen this one at Tesco store in Lincoln. Is it its final setting? Right. I hope that's given you some sort of idea of what I got to here, and I look forward to creating a piece of work for you. Thanks.